Bonjour, bienvenue, welcome back to Atelier RGS. I'm Rob Smith, and today, at long last, we're back on the Morini. The aim is really to try and finish the engine installation at least. But I'm not sure how far we'll get, but follow along and see how we do. Right, job one is to remove this engine cover so I can refit the starter motor and associated bits and pieces. Also got to remember to refit the clutch rod, which if you remember fell out when I was cleaning the engine. I'll put a little link in for that. And I think I can also clean the engine filter, the oil filter at the same time. But we'll just start by pulling this off. I haven't got all the fasteners in at the moment. Indeed, some of them fell out on the road, so I've got to, I think probably today I should figure out what's missing and what I need to order. They are slightly different lengths as well. Makes it interesting. Let's try not to lose any more. There we go. Yep. First of all, reassembling this fella. Okay, so the way this starter motor setup works is that's the starter motor obviously. There's a sprocket on the starter motor that engages with the chain here, which spins this, which is a sort of centrifugal clutch. That then grabs onto the back of this generator housing, and the generator's in there. So this lot all bolts onto the side of the engine. So we'll do that in a bit, but first we've got to fit this in here, and then there's this shield which fits, well, will only fit there, so that's that. So I guess that keeps any muck from out here. So the chain is going around here as well, so the sprocket is on the engine at this side, so the chain's whizzing around in here, and I guess this shield stops muck off the chain, oil and dirt or whatever, flying into the generator and starter clutch assembly. So, first thing to do is engage that sprocket in the chain. I think he's got it. By George, he's got it. There we go. So that's that. That then sits over there and just floats around inside, I guess. Right, nuts and bolts. A couple of Allen bolts by the looks of it. 31. So I'm referring to the manual, which has usefully got a list of parts in there as well. So what I'm looking for, 31, is socket head screw. Well, that's useful. Doesn't actually tell me what size. There we go. 6 by 30. Okay, so I need an M6 by 30 screw. 2 of. Okay, after a little bit of reading the manual, the way it goes is, as I said before, mounted there with two 30mm M6 screws, which I've found. You adjust the tension on the belt by twisting them. Interestingly, it pivots on this back piece, which is a longer, I think it's a 90mm M6 screw that actually holds the case on as well. So interesting. So we'll just put this back together, find the spring washer, which I had a moment ago, and then that should be that for the right-hand case. Yeah, right-hand case. Oh, one thing I nearly forgot. I just found out you're supposed to top up the oil in the starter motor every 8,000 miles through this little screw just there. So I'm going to do that first, or at least check it. Seeing as I have never done this, I would be surprised if there's any in it at all. This is always surprising I can get this screw out in the first place, of course. Yep, sod all oil at all. So the oil I need is SAE 70 with additive stuff. Okay, so I don't have the oil. It's a gearbox oil or gear oil. So I've ordered that, thanks to Amazon. Should be here on Tuesday. Today is Saturday. So I think that's probably about as far as we can really go with this engine cover. So what I'm going to do is just push this all back together. If I can get this plug back in. And I'll mock it up in there just to make sure there's no other roadblocks in all of this. And then later in the week we should be able to finalise that. So what I'll carry on doing, like I say, put this together so we know it will go together, and then we can go and start changing the sprocket and the cam belt on the engine, and then putting the generator stuff back together, which will allow me to connect another piece of the electrical system, which will be good, because at the moment it's floating around. Okay, that seems to go together fine. So once we've got the oil, we can finish that off. I've also ordered the long bolt and some extra spring washers. Good old Amazon. So let's reconvene in the main garage and we'll get on with putting all this lot together. So there's a couple of things we want to do before we refit the generator and the generator cover. One is change the engine cam belt, and the other is change the chain drive sprocket. I actually fitted a new cam belt in terms of mileage not that long ago. In terms of years, many years ago. So worth doing while I got it apart, I think. Okay, to get the cam belt off, I've got to take this spring off, which I think is just a push fit, and then possibly the whole pulley, but if I can slide it on, I'll do that. But I certainly have to get there's a circlip in here and this sort of big washery thing. So let's give that a go. There's the timing mark. So let's mark that a little bit clearer. Okay, so that's lined up. Okay, so the timing mark on the engine is just there, and unfortunately the actual mark on the pulley is behind the washer. It does look like the Woodruff key, which is that bit there, is in the right place. So job on, let's see if we can get that spring off. Okay, that's coming out reasonably well. Set optimistically. There we go. first go. So this washer, or guide plate as it's properly called, is supposed to come off. Go gentle. Okay, a little spring. And that comes off. Okay. Yeah, this is working. There we go. So there are two types. I presumably A, but this takes B type. You can see there. So I'm kind of hoping, seeing as that one's knackered, that the one I've got is the correct one. Let's have a look. Yep, seems to line up. So now I really need to get this back into alignment and then start from there, don't I? So cam belt's easy. There we go. This one might be a little bit more interesting. Okay, now that we can turn the engine over, let's see if we can find that marker. So I think it's supposed to be on the end of one of these teeth. Let me just double check. It should be somewhere around here. So that's the engine marker, just there. And on the diagrams, the Woodruff key's around here somewhere. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see there the mark on the cam pulley. It lines up with the mark in the crankcase. And there should be a mark, looks like one tooth to the left of the Woodruff key, which lines up with the mark I just showed you. So let's have a look, see what we can see. A little bit of rust in there, which isn't helping. So that would be that one or that one. A little bit of scrapey. Well, I can't for the life of me see any marks on this pulley, but looking at the diagram, the tooth just to the left of where the Woodruff key lines up should be lined up with that. So I think we're in the right spot. We will just slightly adjust the cam pulley so that it's properly lined up. Hopefully that'll be that. Doesn't seem to be any marks that I can see showing which way around this belt goes. Was there on the old one? No. Okay. Let's just try and get him on. I'm just trying to push it into the pulleys as I rotate the engine. I'm just kind of walking it on. The top one's in place, the bottom one I think needs a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now let's rotate it around and make sure the marks line up. Well, what marks there are. Okay, I think that is right. So let's put the washers and things back on, and then that's the cam belt done. What do we got? We've got this little springy one on here. There, and then we've got this chap. There's the slot for the circlip. That washer or guide is slightly dished. And I just want to check I got it the right way around. I'm pretty sure I have. I mean, it makes sense to me that it would sort of, the rim would be further out than the centre, just so that it acts as a better guide for the pulley. But we should double check these things, because we are not at home to Mr. Mess Up today. Yep. Aha. I've got the washer in the right place. Well, the way we're around, but the spring actually goes outboard of it, which actually makes more sense when you think about it, which I obviously didn't. So we've got washer dished out so that the rim is further out than the centre. It's probably a more elegant way of saying that, but I don't know what it is. And then that spring, which I guess adds a little bit of give on the guide. That's what I'm assuming it's for. And somehow I've got to get the push it down and get the circlip on. Guess if I can get it sitting on the rim and just give it a shove. That's what we'll try. Okay, the spring's on. Let's try and get this circlip on. Set a circlip pliers if you haven't got some, make your life a bit easier. Okay, so that's on. Can I now push it into place? I think he's in. Yeah, you can see there it's in. Well, you probably can't, but you'll have to take my word for it. Okay, so that is the belt installed. Just turn the engine around and make sure nothing horrible happens. Okay, happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, I think we'll knock it on the head for today, but before I do that, I'm going to make a note in the manual when I change the belt. I will also, once I've found the speedometer, I will make a note of the kilometerage as well. New day back on the bike. So as I said, next job is pulling off this sprocket. There's nothing in the manual I've got about how to do that, but hopefully it's relatively straightforward. So at the moment it's spinning freely. So what I'm going to try and do is jam it with, let's do it. Yep, not thick enough. That should do it. So that's just the part of my puller. Just use the impact on it. I'll put it on the lowest to start with. see where we go. This is a 22mm socket. Easy peasy. I need to use a puller to get this out. Not the world's greatest puller, this one, but it should be adequate for this job, I would hope. There we go. So if we compare and contrast the new and the old, same number of teeth that has happened, you can see quite a bit of sort of curling of the ends of the sprocket as it's worn. Yeah, I think that's well due a replacement. Everything seems to line up. Cool. Okay, so next I'm going to take out the oil filter. It's a reusable element. You can do this with the engine fully assembled, but it's just, might as well do it while I've got better access. So I've got a little there, little pot underneath to catch any oil that comes out. It's a bit stiffer. Gasket seems to be in good nick. So that's the filter element. Not much to it. You're supposed to clean it out with petrol, but I haven't got any to hand, so I'm just going to use some brake clean. Pretty sludgy right down the bottom bit, so I've just actually run out of that brake cleaner, but a while ago I bought this. So this is a reusable bottle, because you get through a fair amount of brake cleaner, or I do anyhow. So this is a reusable bottle that you just pressurise with an airline, and I've got a 5 litre jug of brake clean. So I think it's just hopefully saves a bit of money in the long run, but I think it's also a little bit more environmental. That's getting the sludgy bits out better as well. There we go. Looks pretty good. So I'll just get an eyeline and blow that through now. So push this chap back in. give this a little bit of a clean while we're at it. Put a little bit of world's oldest blue Hylamar just around the edge, because I'm reusing the gasket. Probably doesn't need it, but hang the expense. Just a light smear. And that's another job done. So I didn't, when I took all this apart, I didn't really disconnect, well, I didn't disconnect the generator. I just basically unbolted it and left it floating around. So hopefully we just put it back on. Right, generator. So this is the generator, oops, and that's a piece I need. So this just bolts in here, and it goes with the cable coming out at the bottom. The cable goes through that cutout there, and then this little plate just bolts on with the mounting screw to hold it in place, or the cable in place. What I'm going to do first though is put some of the same sleeving I've used elsewhere onto this cable. It absolutely does not need it. It's just so that it looks consistent, I guess. So I want a bit from about here up and round there. Should be about right. Snippety snip. I went into some detail on how to install this on the previous video with the wiring, so check back on that. But you basically use this little plastic thing to feed the split braiding over the cable. It's pretty easy, he said confidently. And these are just 3D printed. I'm sure you can buy them, but there we go. I'm going to shove this up as far as I can. Yeah. Just make sure it's wrapped nice and cleanly round, so it's not overlapping itself or anything. So what I'm going to use to finish off the edges of the ends of this braiding is just some of this fabric tape. You can actually use this for doing all of the loom, but I prefer the braiding, so that's what I'm going to do. Of course, first I've got to find the end on this. There we go. That's the finished article. So I need to do that on the rest of the braiding, but I'll do that towards the end. So that goes like that. That is touching the belt. That is not. Spin that around a few more times. I wonder if there's supposed to be washers in there. That's why, because I had it, didn't have it in the right place. So you can see when it's in the right place, there's a cutout for the belt. Just double check it's not rubbing. No, that looks fine. So there we go. Double check nothing's rubbing. Yeah, looks good. Give those screws a little tweak. There we go. Okay, next thing I want to do is refit the clutch actuator rods. These actually fell out when I was cleaning the engine. So you got 3 bits, 2 thin bits and 1 short fat bit. And I only found them in the drip tray afterwards. Luckily, because I videoed it, I could go back and see where they came from. So, and I've just checked it again so that I know which order to put them in. So it's the 2 thin ones and then the short fat one. I don't think it matters which way around they go. Okay. So they go into this hole here, so I'm just going to clean that out a little bit and stuff them back in. At least it gives a space for more new dirt to cake itself around. Slightly better. I'm going to lubricate these as I put them back in, not with brake clean, I'm not, just with a bit of general purpose oil. There we go. So one of the last things to do on this side is just refit the stator. So I'll give it a little bit of a clean. just because it's going onto a tapered surface. I don't want any grit and grime in there. Should do it. Make sure it lines up with the woodruff key. There. So you may have noticed I'm having a little bit of issues getting the stator back on. So what I'm going to do is try taking the generator back off, just to, in case that's what's jamming it, and then we at least narrowed down the problem. Don't remember having a problem with it when I last changed the cam belt, but that was a very long time ago. I wonder if the spring that was in there has got itself hung up or something. Let's have a look. There we go. Okay. That spring does seem quite a long way down. I wonder if that's the problem. I bet that's the problem. Right. Take that off and then see if it goes on without it. I'm going to try cleaning that off a little bit. Okay, well that seems to line up and go on okay. So, where did I put that spring? There he is. So let's clean the spring as well. go and just rub this with a little bit of sandpaper and clean off any corrosion. So we're just trying to clean off all of the mating surfaces, including the inside of this spring. See if that makes any difference. Okay, that seems to feel like it's going a little bit cleaner. Okay, so that's all cleaned up. Let's see if it fits any better. Okay, seems to be going in place. I don't really want to start doing the nut up and getting it jammed when there's something still a problem. So I'm going to put the generator back on and hope for the best. Okay, let's try that again. Feels like the spring's moving a bit freer. A lot easier when you put the washer on. So this central nut has to be tightened to 6.5 meter kilograms, which is, I wrote this down, it is, I think it's just under 68 Newton meters. So there is, I believe, a special tool to lock the engine up. I'm just going to see if I can figure another way of doing it. There we go, that should do it. There we go. Okay. I think that's this side buttoned up, with the exception of just putting the cover on, really, which we're waiting for those couple of little bits and pieces for. So hopefully do that later in the week. I might need to adjust this clutch lever, but I kind of need a clutch to do that. So what I will probably do is start assembling the other side and see if we can get it so that I can get that adjusted or checked, and then the only thing that's left to do really is on this side is fit the chain, and I don't mind pulling the side panel off to do that once the back wheel and everything's put back together. Okay, I think we'll do one last checker that we've got the timing correct on the engine, and then we'll knock it on the head for this video. So what we can check, and I've cheated by doing this first, is there's a mark on the flywheel stator that says PMS, which is the static timing. That lines up, is supposed to line up with the center of the cam there, and then the cam pulley is lined up with the mark just there. So all is good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark these because they're a little hard to see. That doesn't work. So that is the static timing, which I shall do in black. And then we've also got the dynamic timing, which is set at 6,000 RPM, same lineup on the centre of the cam pulley there, which I shall mark in silver, which doesn't show up at all. Silver on a silver background. We'll mark that in black as well. There we go. I'll mark that with an A and that with a P. So I'm reasonably happy with where we got to. We had a few struggles, mainly with this fella getting him back on, but we made some progress. So next time we'll be starting on the other side, putting the clutch in, and then we can come back over here, do the final adjustment on the clutch lever. Hopefully by that time we've got the oil for the starter motor, so we can button this side up and the other side, and maybe even do a little bit more. So I hope you enjoyed the video, maybe even find it useful to you if you're rebuilding one of these. If you did, please check out our shop and help support the channel if you can. That would be great, and we'll see you soon.